Hello everyone, good evening. Am I audible to you all? Please let me know if I'm audible so that I can start my discussion today. Okay, am I audible? Good evening. Good evening. Okay, so today in this mains examination, we just saw that yesterday was essay paper, today morning GS paper 1, GS paper 2. So now I'm going to discuss GS paper 2 with you. So in this GS paper 2, we can expect questions from governance, and then you can expect questions from society, social justice, and then we can expect questions from international relations. So what I'll do today is how we are going to discuss is I'll first discuss the question. I'll make you understand the question properly, what are the keywords, and then I'll tell you what can be written as the answer. Okay, so I'm not going to give you the entire answer as such, but I will make you understand how to approach these kind of questions, how to write these kind of questions, which is actually more important, because content is like there is no perfect, this is the only answer. You can write your answers in various forms, various content can be used, but still what is the approach, what is the perfect approach to attend all these questions is what we are going to discuss now. Okay, so for this I would like to welcome you all to Let's Crack UPSC CSE English channel. So we are doing it with India's largest learning platform. You can download it in Google Play Store or Apple Store, and this is about me. I am Suba Keerthana. So you can see about me, I'm an engineer and anthropology faculty. You can visit all my special classes, they are all free for you. Just go to Unacademy platform and search my name Suba Keerthana, where you will get all the free classes. Okay, so you can also join my Telegram channel, which is given in the description. So use my code for iconic and plus subscription, along with optional also you can use my code so that you will get a 10% of discount. So this new year we have started new batches on 4th January for this prelims or 1 year or 2 years of subscription. So for this also I am giving you my code SUBA, you can get the 10% of discount. Along with this you have these combos. In these combos you also have this no cost EMI options, and then you can use my code. All these benefits are there. Please remember there is going to be an iconic price hike very soon, and iconic is very good because you have a personal attention from Unacademy. You have a personal guidance from Unacademy, which is making your preparation more effective. Yes, you have content, you have all the materials, you can get it online, but are you doing it right or not? That is the biggest question which is in the minds of people. So if you want to clear this examination, you should know, are you going in the right path? For that, a personal mentor will definitely help you if you are opting for iconic. There is going to be a price hike very soon, so do it as soon as possible. This is my special class sessions where you have the opportunity to interact with me live, and the chat system is there. I will be posting questions for the prelims 2021 so that we can have poll and more interactive sessions. Fine. Starting with this, see the questions are shuffled, but I have taken notes for all the questions. We will be discussing all the questions. Don't worry about it. Okay, fine. So one of this question. Okay, so one of this question is, once a speaker, always a speaker. Okay, so see this question. These are all questions which has come today in GS paper 2 mains of UPSC 2021. Okay, so prelims which took place in 2020 and the mains has taken place in 2021. Fine. So this is one of the questions. See this question, understand the question. I will help you understand the question. This is a 10-mark question again. Okay, so let's see what is this. Once a speaker, always a speaker. This is actually from UK, United Kingdom's Parliament. Okay, so there this statement is there. This is a rule followed over there, which is not followed in our country. But what is the question? This is followed in United Kingdom's Parliament. But what is the question they are asking here? Do you think this practice should be adapted to impart objectivity to the office of Speaker of Lok Sabha? What could be the implications for robust functioning of parliamentary business in India? This is the question. So I am dividing this question: once a speaker, always a speaker. So you have to talk about this. Number one, first part of the answer. Do you think this practice should be adopted to impart objectivity? What does objectivity means? Objectivity means a decision making without having any bias. Okay, so objectivity is one of the important qualification for any government official, for any civil servant. So in that case, so this is the first thing. Second, they're asking another question, which is this. So do you think this practice should be adopted to impart objectivity to the office of Speaker of Lok Sabha? Third, what could be its implications for robust functioning India? So you have to address all these 3 points. Some people will write about this. Immediately they'll go and write about the functions of speaker, and then they'll just leave it. But the answer here is they are asking you 1, 2, 3 questions they have asked just in this. So once a speaker, always a speaker. You have to address that part. Do you think this practice should be adopted to impart objectivity to the office of Speaker of Lok Sabha? Is the second part. And what could be its implication for the robust functioning of parliamentary business in India? That is the second part. Third part. Okay. Next. So first you have to talk about once a speaker is always a speaker. So why do you call that features of British speaker? In UK, that is once a speaker, always a speaker means his constituency is unchallenged, which means if he is chosen as a speaker, he'll be elected, without election. I mean, without opposition. Number one. Second is he should give formal resignation, which means that when he is giving the formal resignation, he is not belonging to any political party. So obviously here comes the answer for objectivity, right? Fine. He has casting vote and ultimate disciplinary powers with respect to the conduct of House and MP. Okay, so this is about British Speaker. I answered. So first part is over. Second part, Speaker of Lok Sabha. You have to talk about Speaker of Lok Sabha. But here in Speaker of Lok Sabha, it is not necessary to resign. If he is deciding to resign, he will not be disqualified under anti-defection law, and no Convention of India will be, elected uncontested. So this is the concept. Fine. Now the question is, will this help? Will this help in increasing the robustness of parliamentary business? So see here, you have to talk about what are all the functions of Speaker of Lok Sabha. What are the parliamentary businesses that is having linked with Speaker? See, while members of Parliament represent individual constituency, a Speaker is representing the entire House. Very important. He symbolizes dignity and power, and he conducts the business of the House by ensuring discipline. So you have to write about all the functions. So he has, he has his vote in terms of deadlock. In not all the situations, in terms of deadlock, he has to cast a vote, not in the first instance, but when there is a deadlock. He has immense power to interpret the rules of procedure. The speaker ensures the MPs are punished for unruly behavior. He can also disqualify a member on the grounds of anti-defection. So in this case, you have to talk about one thing, and most important, money bill decision, because his decision regarding money bill is final. So I have not written all the functions of parliament. Keep one thing in mind, guys. This is a 150 words question. So don't write everything. Word limit is very important. In that case, I'm only writing the important points. What are those? He is the representation of entire house, not an individual political party. And then he is the representation of dignity and power of the parliament. He should take care of the discipline, and he has a vote in terms of deadlock, not in the first instance. In the second instance, he has the vote in terms of deadlock, and he interprets the rules of the procedures. Fine. And then he can punish the MPs, and he can disqualify a member in terms of anti-defection law, and his decision towards money bill is final. You are going to write all these things, and finally you have to say that if he is resigning, okay, there has been an instance that Dr. N. Sanjeev Reddy, the Speaker of 4th Lok Sabha, he formally resigned from his political party. There is, even though it is not even though it is not a rule, but once it has happened. So what is the implication of happening all these things is you can write. So if all these things happen, in conclusion, you're going to write that the objectivity of speaker will definitely increase, because when he is not belonging to any particular political party, especially in our country, majority rule takes place, first past post system. In that situation, if the speaker is following this, the convention of once a speaker, always a speaker, this will definitely improve the objectivity. Okay, you have to write it like that. Fine. So this is the first, this is one question. We are going to the next question. See this question, very important. Why? This is an indirect question. Because this statement, institutional quality is a crucial driver for economic performance. In this context, suggests reforms in civil service for strengthening democracy. So in that situation, what they are asking is, in this question, they will definitely expect you to talk about Mission Karma Yogi, because one of the press release of the government of India has stated about this. See, National Architecture for Civil Services Capacity Building called Mission Karma Yogi, that aims to transform the capacity building apparatus at individual, institutional and process levels. It is capable of delivering services. This is, I have taken this from PIB, Press Information Bureau. What is Press Information Bureau? It's a governmental statement. So in that case, the capable of creating, delivering the services conducive to economic growth and public welfare. Now do you understand the question? Economic performance. Fine. So here in this context, suggest reforms in the service for strengthening democracy. You have to write about many concepts. Obviously, we know increasing the transparency and then accountability, all these things. But definitely talk about Mission Karma Yogi also in this question. When you are mentioning Mission Karma Yogi in this question, you will get a very good mark, because it has been mentioned in the statement of the government itself. Okay, so what is this? Rule based training to role based training. Instead of training the civil servants to work according to rule, they are training the civil servants to work according to the role. What is the role of civil servant? Okay, so here you can talk about, it will be delivered as integrated government online training platform. So public human resource council will be developed, capacity building commission will be set up, and then this has already been tried during COVID situation. Mention this point also. And then it is expected to evolve into a vibrant and world-class marketplace for the content, where carefully curated, and you can talk about all these points. Okay, so what are the impacts of this Mission Karma Yogi? It will create an ecosystem of shared training infrastructure, including that of learning material, institution and personnel. All civil servants positions to framework of roles, activities and competencies, and behavioral, functional and domain competencies. See, these are all what they are expecting you to give as reforms. So you have to change behavior, you have to introduce behavioral reforms, functional reforms, domain competencies that can be achieved by this program Mission Karma Yogi. You can use Mission Karma Yogi as an example. Don't just concentrate on Mission Karma Yogi alone. So you have to justify the statement first. Institutional quality is a crucial driver for economic performance. You have to justify the statement, because institutional quality, that is the institution of civil services, the quality should increase. What are the qualities of good governance, especially ethical qualities of a civil servant? You have to write about accountability, transparency, okay, and then following all the ethical rules, anti-corruption, not being corrupt, all these things. Okay, you have to talk about all these things, and you can suggest reforms and give example, which is Mission Karmayogi, and talk about Mission Karmayogi. Okay, yes. Next question, this is very interesting question and very easy question also to write. The emergence of fourth industrial revolution, a very good thing that they have itself given digital revolution, because this makes the question very easy, because many might, if not prepared properly, many might have confused what is fourth industrial revolution. It is nothing but digital revolution. Why this question has have been asked? In World Economic Forum, this term digital fourth industrial revolution has been widely discussed. That is why this question has come. Okay, now they are linking this fourth industrial revolution with e-governance as an integral part of government. Discuss, very important. Fine. So here there are two things you should answer. First, you should talk about what is fourth industrial revolution. Third, you should talk about e-governance initiatives. You have to talk about e-governance initiatives. Give examples for this e-governance initiatives, and tell them finally how it is very important, especially at this, in conclusion. Definitely you have to mention about the situation now in this pandemic situation. This e-governance is actually helping to avoid the spread of diseases, and it is delivering the services at the doorstep of people. Okay, so let's go into the answer. So the founder and executive chairman of WEF, Klaus Schwab. It's okay even if you are not able to write the name, but it should be mentioned about this WEF, World Economic Forum. The fourth industrial revolution is a technological revolution that will fundamentally alter the way we live, work, and relate to one another. This is why this fourth industrial revolution has become very famous, and it has been placed in the question paper also. Okay, so and you have to talk, you have to define what is fourth industrial revolution. It is the current and developing environment in which disruptive technologies such as, very important, you have to talk about this, IoT, Internet of Things, robotics, virtual reality, and artificial intelligence. Fourth intelligence, the most important parts of fourth industrial revolution is Internet of Things, robotics, virtual reality, and artificial intelligence. So this is changing the way we live and work. So first part you spoke about what is fourth industrial revolution, and since it is 150 words, you will be writing it for 10 marks. 10 marks is that you just have 2 pages. So in one page, you have to take half page. I mean, you'll be having the question, and below that question, you should be writing about where this fourth industrial revolution. You can write this as an introduction. I mean, this WEF as an introduction, and then write a topic called as fourth industrial revolution. There you talk about all these points. What does fourth industrial revolution means? What are the important technologies which are involved in this fourth industrial revolution? Now, here in this question, very importantly, you have to talk about e-governance as an integral part of government. Since they have given the term discuss, you're going to just write about this e-governance initiative, and you're going to tell that yes, it has been an integral part. Here they're not asking you to comment, or they're not asking you to justify. They're asking you to comment. You should say what is your opinion. Yes or no kind of opinion should be mentioned. They're asking you to justify. You should only talk about yes, correct, what the statement is right. To talk that the statement is right. But here, since they have asked as discuss alone, so you need not worry. You can write about this. Okay, fine. Every word in the question is important. So what are the e-governance initiative? First, you have to talk about what are the four major types of interaction. Don't mention everything. This I have given for explanation, but you have to talk about this government to government, government to citizen, government to business, government to employees. These are the four major types of e-governance interactions. Okay, so government to government, government to citizens, government to business, government to employees. Four types of e-governance, and the National E-Governance Plan have formulated this, e-governance initiatives. So what are the important e-governance initiatives? I have given many, but at least give 3 examples and explain how they are very important. I have given many e-governance initiative. You need not mention everything. They are not asking you to list out the e-governance. They are asking you to discuss that fourth industrial revolution has made e-governance very important, integral part of governance. So you have to mention the link between e-governance, how the internet and all these things are helping. So in that case, Digital India was launched, and you know very well what are the digital infrastructure. Now, government service are delivered digitally, achieving universal digital literacy. You have Aadhaar, mygovernment.in, computerization of land records, e-hospital online registration framework, common service centers, very, very important. See, one of the most important thing that you should definitely mention is common service center, because it is implemented to develop and provide support to the information technology in the rural areas of country. So this is connecting, this particular common service center is connecting this, rural areas with government, because the most important part of good governance is reducing the distance between the government and people. So that is what is the most important part of good governance. In that case, this common service center acts as the most important concept, because nowadays you are providing all the government, private and social service to the doorstep of citizens. Right here you need internet, you need artificial intelligence, all these things. So very importantly, you can talk about this and you can tell them that even today your all the certificates, all your registrations, starting from birth certificate to death certificate, and then your OBC certificate, community certificate, everything are received through this common service centers. Benefits and outcomes. Finally, write about this. Very, very important, because that is what is the question. How it has become the integral part of, governance. Enhanced transparency and accountability, expanded reach of governance, improved public administration, enables environment for promoting economic development, improved service delivery in the form of better access to information and quality services to citizens. So the question, how you have to proceed, the question I'm repeating. First, you talk about fourth industrial revolution, give an introduction. In that you are talking about World Economic Forum, definitely, because I have already told you introduction mostly should be either a definition or a data from any report or international forums. In that case, this fourth industrial revolution, the term fourth industrial revolution was very famous in World Economic Forum. Then you are going to give definition about what is fourth industrial revolution. Then you are going to talk about what are the important e-governance initiatives, and finally why, benefits and outcomes, why it has become, don't write it as benefits and outcomes, write it as the reasons for e-governance to be integral part. Right, like that. Break the questions, and those broken terms can be used as subheadings. And finally you're going to write all these things, and you're going to prove the statement that yes, this fourth industrial revolution has made this e-governance very important. Finally, in conclusion, especially at this situation of the pandemic, world pandemic of COVID-19, this e-governance have proved that governance can be taken place properly by online platform, internet platform, through e-governance. Okay, so this is having two advantages. One is the service delivery has been without any hindrance. Second is it is also avoiding the spread of disease. Conclusion will be very effective. Okay, so just imagine without e-governance what would have happened in this COVID situation, right? Your payment of electricity bills or everything, what would have happened? Yes. Next, see, very important, very beautiful question this is. This is 250 words, which means 15 mark questions. You will have 3 pages. Okay, see how I am breaking this question. Indian Constitution exhibits centralizing tendencies to maintain unity and integrity of nation. This is one part of question. Elucidate in the perspective of Epidemic Diseases Act of 1987, Disaster Management Act of 2005, and recently passed Form Acts. You have to talk about number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, and elucidate in the perspective. So finally you have to give a very strong conclusion. So first is nothing but federation with unitary bias. That is what they are asking you to explain. Federation with unitary bias. Simple, you have to write from salient features of Indian Constitution, which we have discussed in our polity classes. I will show it here so that you know what happens is that you can add it. Then you have to talk about Epidemic Diseases Act of 1897. See, don't mention all the points, 3 pages, 250 words. If you are explaining all these, recently passed formats, you have 3 acts. And then you have September 2023 acts have been passed, and then you have Epidemic Diseases Act, Disaster Management Act. You have to talk about all these 4 points. So let's see how we are going to take. So you can talk about first, India as a, first of all, you have to give an introduction like Indian Constitution is, India is, according to the Indian Constitution, we are, federation with unitary bias. Okay, or you can give the, any quote of any of these constitution makers, quasi-federal in nature kind of quotes can be given. India as a union. So what are all the evidences for India as a union? We have a strong center, single constitution, single citizenship, flexibility of constitution, integrated judiciary. In this, what are all the main point? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So even this flexibility of constitution you can leave, but these 7 points are the proof that Indian constitution is following a centralized form of approach. And then finally, federal system with unitary bias. Federation has nowhere been mentioned in the constitution, and in Article 1, Union of India as a union of states, Indian federation is not a result of an agreement, and no state has the right to cede from the federation. So these are the most important points you have to mention to prove the first statement that Indian Constitution exhibits centralizing tendencies to maintain unity and integrity of the nation. Okay, so you can also mention this statement, the first, as the introduction. India is India is formed with, India is an indestructible nation with destructible states. You can write about that also. Indestructible union with a destructible state. That also can be mentioned as an introduction. You are writing all these things. And then what? Provisions of 1897 Epidemic Diseases Act. So what has been, see, please be very careful. They have clearly mentioned 1897 in the question. Don't write about 2020 amendment and all. They are asking about 1897 only. Epidemic Diseases Act 1897, the Disaster Management Act 2005, and recently passed Form Acts. So please be very careful in what you are writing. So in that format, if you are seeing 1897 Epidemics Act, I have given all the points, but I am mentioning what is the important things. Here it empowers the state government. See, before independence, the state government and union territory have been empowered, to take care. It determines in what manner, by whom, at any expenses it shall be defrayed. So all these things are important. The state government may take measures and prescribe regulations, and penalties for disobeying any order are made under this act. Most importantly, it gives the legal protection to the implementing officers. This is the Epidemics Act of 1897. But Disaster Management Act of 2005, what is it making is, see, this is all very common terms. What is this National Disaster Management Authority? Sorry, with Prime Minister as the chairperson. And then central government, this act is asking the central government to constitute a national executive committee, and then state governments are mandated to establish state disaster management authority, all these things. But what is the power given to center here is, this power is bestowed by the DM Act, that is Disaster Management Act, on the central government and National Disaster Management Authority. The power is given more to central government and National Disaster Management Authority, and any such direction issued by the central government and NDA must be necessarily followed by the union ministers, state governments and state management authorities. That is what you want to prove. The center is more powerful than state. It is a general statement. They are asking you to prove it with, state epidemics diseases act and National Disaster Management Act. In terms of 1897, you can see that the central government was empowering the state, but here you can know very well that after in 2005, the central government is having more power and the state government should listen to the central government. That is what is in this Parliamentary Act. And most importantly, farm laws. Now, see, the first statement you should definitely mention, agriculture is a state subject. What does state subject mean? That the state governments should address the issue, they should take care of they should make laws from that, from those subjects. But there are special situations where the parliament can make law. What are those? When Rajya Sabha passes a resolution, or when there is a national emergency, or when states make a request, two or more states is making the request to the parliament, they can make law from the state list, or to implement international agreements, or during president's rule. These are the only special cases where parliament can make law from the state subject. But if agriculture is the state subject, how can parliament make law? You can question. This shows the parliament is having more, center is having more power. The constitution is giving the center more power. Then definitely they're asking about the farm law. They're not asking you to explain. So just mention that in September 2020, this is not needed. In September 2020, 3 farm laws has been passed. One is Farmer Produce Trade and Commerce Promotion Facilitation Act of 2020, and then Farmers Empowerment and Protection Agreement Act, and then Essential Commodities Act. Please don't get so much emotional and start explaining all these acts. Just give a simple meaning of all these acts. And finally, you have to explain about the powers of central government related to this act. Here they will definitely expect you to write about this. Agriculture is a state subject, but still parliament has created law, because that is what is mentioned in the question, right? Indian constitution is following a centralizing approach. Fine. So this is one of the best example how the center is having more power compared to the state. Even in the state list, center can create laws. Okay, fine. Finally, in conclusion, you have to write about, you are mentioning all these things, and finally you have to write about that Indian constitution is following a centralizing approach, or you can write this statement again. And the recently passed farm bills and the Disaster Management Act is clearly explaining how the central government is having more power than the state government. Kind of conclusion should be given. Fine, we'll go to the next question. Very beautiful question. Here you should all know one thing. Okay, so they haven't mentioned the term judicial activism. They're mentioning judicial legislation. Very important. They're not talking about judicial activism. They're talking about judicial legislation. Judicial activism means judiciary becoming more active. Judicial legislation means a law passed by a judge. Okay, please be very careful in answering this question. Judicial activism is antithetical to the doctrine of separation of powers. So you have to talk about judicial activism, you have to talk about doctrine of separation of powers, how they are antithetical, and then you have to talk about, in this context, justify the filing of large number of public interest petitions. They are asking about public interest PIL, not just any case by judiciary. They are especially talking about public interest litigation, which is issuing guidance to executive authorities. Fine. So here what are the important points you should note down is, you have to talk about judicial legislation, doctrine of separation, how they are opposite to each other, and then you have to talk about public interest petitions, praying issue guidelines to the executive authorities. Fine. How? Let's go into the answer. First, what does judicial legislation means? Laws held to be created by the pronouncement of a judge. Okay, the ruling of a court which will become a law, or a strict interpretation of law according to the manifest intention of the legislature is called as judicial legislation. What a separation of power means is that in India, separation of functions rather than powers is followed, That is, in India, it is the separation of functions rather than powers. And in US, it is very strictly followed, but India, we are not following it very strictly. But still, we have a system of checks and balances, like how the judiciary is having judicial review. Okay, so you have to talk about that separation of powers. And I have given you many examples. You have to talk about at least at least two or three public interest litigation. These are all public interest litigations. So this is the Vishaka versus state of Rajasthan. Okay, so in this case, Banwari Devi was against child marriage. And what happened? The members of local community, first retaliated by harassing her, and later the judgment was given that sexual harassment is a clear violation of fundamental constitutional rights of equality. See, what are all the rights? Equality, non-discrimination, life and liberty, as well as the right to carry out any occupation. See, you can mention any public interest litigation, very famous public interest litigation, not necessarily this. Okay, but relevant public interest litigation is needed. Second case, Javed versus State of Haryana. The Javed litigants challenged the constitutionality of a coercive population control provision which governed the election of Panchayat. So what happened was, in Panchayat, a person having more than 2 living children will not be qualified to contest the election. That was the rule according to the election commission, Haryana Election Commission. So that was actually supported by and the objective of this two-child norm was to popularize family planning, and this was supported by the okay, having this. Okay, yes. Significance of judicial activism. This is what is the most important thing they are asking you, because see, in this context, justify. What does justify means? You have to say yes, it's right. You have to prove it's right. They are not asking you to comment. They are not asking you to discuss. They are not asking you to critically analyze. They are asking you to justify, which means you have to say yes, this filing of public interest petitions is right. That for that you have to prove the significance of judicial legislation. Okay, what is this? It's an effective tool for upholding citizens' rights and implementing constitutional principles when executive and legislature fails to do so. That is what is judicial legislation. When executive and legislature is not doing their work, then comes the judicial legislation. Citizens have the judiciary as the last hope for protecting their rights. And Article 13, Article 32 and 226 of the Constitution provides the power of judicial review to the higher judiciary to declare any executive, legislative or administrative action void. The shift from locus standi to public interest litigation made the judicial process more participatory and democratic. Locus standi to public interest litigation. Okay, so judicial activism counters the opinion that judiciary is a mere spectator. Judiciary is not a mere spectator. They take part in the protecting the democracy, participatory and democratic in nature. Fine. This is about this answer. Finally, you have to give the conclusion, like how this judicial legislation will help in balancing the Indian constitution, for works of Indian constitution, like that. Next question, the strength and sustenance of local institution in India has shifted from their formative phase of functions, functionaries and funds to contemporary stage of functionality. So what does that mean? Generally, the local institutions, here they are not talking about panchayat alone, they are talking about local institution. So you also talk like local institution. Okay, you need not talk especially about panchayat or municipality. It's a 250 mark question. So what you have to write is, you have to first write about what was the formative phase, what does functions, functionaries and fund meant, how the local institutions were working. They were working on the concept of functions, functionaries and funds. That is the funds which were given to the local self-government, and functionaries, who were all the important parties who involved in the functions of local institution, and what are the functions. They were working on that stage. But now contemporary stage, as now at present, the functionality, how it works, how the local institution work are very important. You have to justify the statement. Statement number 1. Statement number 2, what are the critical challenges faced by the local institution in terms of their functionality? What are the challenges faced by this local self-government? Finally, in conclusion, you can give the way forward, like how this problem can be rectified. Okay, so going into this local self-government, you have to definitely write about local self-government. Please mention 73rd and 74th constitutional amendments. And then the main objective is to achieve the Gandhian philosophy of self-sustaining organization at grassroots levels. You can write like an introduction. So what are the challenges of local self-governance in India? Okay, so you can write about that. First, talk about what is local self-government, their function. I did not mention this because it's in the constitution also, it's in your book also. So I'm just mentioning what are the issues, especially administrative problems, lack of coordination between bureaucrats and subordinates, and then unscientific distribution of monies and function, regionalism, very, very important, regionalism, financial scarcity, excessive state control. State is controlling so much. What is the main name of local government? Local self-government. But when state is starting to interfere, when the state is controlling, how can you call it a self-governance? That is a very big problem. So what happens? Corruption and favoritism start coming inside. Substandard personnel, that is lax attitude towards the governance. The personnel, the people who are working, the functionaries are not working properly. Okay, so these are the challenges of local self-government in India. See, general problem of any government is this: administrative problem, distribution of money and function is not proper, regionalism is taking place, financial scarcity, the proper distribution of money, finance and funds is not done properly, financial autonomy is not given to them, all these things. What is the role of financial devolutions in strengthening these institutions? You are going to give them suggestions. Reach at the last level of beneficiaries, formalization at grassroots levels, regional specific growth can be given, growth and planning to be done properly, more accountability, increasing the accountability and giving the specific targets. These can be like suggestions or way forward you can give for increasing. See, they are asking you the problems. It is not right to just mention problems. A bureaucrat, when there is a minister or when there is a department asking you what are all the problems faced by that particular project. A role of bureaucrat is not just listing out the problems. A role of bureaucrat is giving solution for all those problems. So the same is expected in your mains question answer also. So you have to, even though the question is demanding what is the problems faced, you have to write about the problems and also should give suggestions even though they're not asking you to give suggestions. Especially it is a 15-mark question, 250-mark question. So even though they're not asking you to write it straight away, they expect you to write this way forward kind of answers. Fine. Very important. This is very beautiful question. Rajya Sabha has been transformed from a useless Stephanie tire to the most useful supporting organ in the past few decades. Highlight the factors as well as the areas in which transformation could be visible. So, they are asking about Rajya Sabha. How Rajya Sabha was a useless Stephanie? Why were we thinking that Rajya Sabha was a useless Stephanie? Now, why Rajya Sabha is very important? This is what they're asking. Fine, let's see. Issues related to Rajya. First of all, write about Rajya Sabha. I'm not giving you the introduction. So first write about what is Rajya Sabha. Why do we call it as upper house? That it cannot be dissolved. When the Lok Sabha is getting dissolved, Rajya Sabha is not dissolved. If you want, you can write about the composition. Okay, anything. But the first question is, they are saying that Rajya Sabha was a useless Stephanie. Why it was called as a useless Stephanie? Because there was no equal representation of states. Bypassing the Rajya Sabha took place because in terms of money bill, we know very well how Rajya Sabha did not have the power. Okay, so when the speaker, you can give the example also, controversy related to Aadhaar Act. Okay, so you can write about that also. So how circumventing of Rajya Sabha takes place. Undermining the federal character of Rajya Sabha. Okay, write about that because Representation of People Act, Parliament has removed the word domicile from the section 3 of the Representation Act of 1951, which means a person who does not belong to a state can contest Rajya Sabha election from the state, which is neither a resident nor a domicile. So Rajya Sabha means, very importantly, this for the federal structure. Federal means representation of state. But what happened in 2003? They have removed the term domicile, which means that Rajya Sabha, even though a person is not in that particular state, he can contest for Rajya Sabha election. Okay, so that is one problem. Then low participation of nominated members. 12 members are nominated by president, but we know very well how much they are participating. Their participation is very, very less. Sachin Tendulkar was appointed in 2012 and the House has met 374 days since then, but the attendance of Sachin Tendulkar was 24 days. Give even other examples. Okay, give examples. Very important. Okay, but they are asking Rajya Sabha is becoming very effective. Now, how Rajya Sabha is effective? Rajya Sabha acts as a safety wall for federal polity. Bicameralism is necessary. What is federal polity? Is like, it has checks and balances between the executive, legislature, and judiciary. Now, this Council of State act as a safety wall within the legislature itself. Okay, because when there is a bill which is, not proper, or it is not following the rules of federation, or it is harmful to federation or democracy, so Rajya Sabha has the power to strike down that bill, not pass the bill, and that bill becomes dead. So that is what they are saying. Next is review and revaluation rule. So revisionary house to keep check on hasty legislation. Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha can prevent the government of the day exercising authoritarianism. Okay, next is a deliberative body. Parliament is not only legislative body but also deliberative one, which enables the members to debate major issues of public importance. So Rajya Sabha has become a place where many major issues nowadays have been mentioned, has been discussed. So that is one important concept. Representing the vulnerable sections. Okay, first past post system. Women, religious, ethnic, and linguistic minorities are not adequately represented in Lok Sabha. But in terms of Rajya Sabha, we know very well it is not first past post system, but it is through proportional representation. So because of this, what happens in Rajya Sabha compared to Lok Sabha, the women, religious, ethnic, and linguistic minority groups are properly represented. Okay, so because of this, they have the chance to take part in the lawmaking process, which will create more justifiable laws. Okay, so write all these. And special powers of Rajya Sabha, we know that they have powers to transfer a subject from state list to union list. They can create additional all India services and endorse emergency under Article 352 for a limited period when Lok Sabha remains dissolved. These are the important powers of Rajya Sabha, which is proving that Rajya Sabha is not just a useless stepney. Okay, so finally, in conclusion, by the above powers of Rajya Sabha, by the above functions of Rajya Sabha, we can properly understand that Rajya Sabha is not just a useless stepney, but a very important, part in the vehicle of democracy. You can write it like something dramatic, because even the question was dramatic. Okay, they compared, the constitution or the parliament as a vehicle, and they have spoken about Rajya Sabha as a stepney. But you are going to prove that no, Rajya Sabha is not a useful stepney. Finally, you can write that, you can give a punching statement. Rajya Sabha is not just a useful stepney, but it's an important part which makes the, vehicle, or which makes the engine of democracy running properly. You can write like that. Okay, yes. Next question, see, very beautiful question it is. Microfinance as a anti-poverty vaccine is aimed at asset creation and income security for the rural poor in India. First statement. So first statement, first of all, you have to talk about what is microfinance. Introduction, give definition or any data related to microfinance. Then you have to talk about how microfinance act as an anti-poverty vaccine, which is aiming at asset creation in the rural poor in India. Second, they are asking about self-help groups in achieving the TIN objectives along empowering women in rural India. So, how self-help group is using this microfinance to achieve the TIN objectives along the empowering. One objective is rural poor in India. Second objective is empowering women in India. How? We are going to see that. First, what is microfinance? Definitely, you should write the definition. Microfinance is a banking service provided to unemployed or low income individuals or groups who otherwise would have no other access to financial services. Definition is must. Okay? Yes. Next. Microfinance allow people to take on reasonable small business loans safely and in manner that is consistent with the ethical lending practices. Fine? Yes. Next. Innovative microfinance marketing models that have made a positive impact in rural India. You have to prove that it is an anti, poverty vaccine. How? Contract farming and credit bundling, agri services centers with a range of products including inventory finance, such as Rabo India Finance. Not they have emerged the most effective mechanism for delivery of micro financial services to the poor. The range of financial services. What are those? Deposits, loans, money transfer, insurance, etc. Very important point. You have to talk about this. Fine. Finally, you should definitely give proof how this self-help group is improving the rural life and women empowerment. You have to talk about that. In that case, 58% of households covered under self-help groups reported an increase in assets. That was the first asset creation in the rural poor. Self-help group has achieved that. Average value of assets per household increased by 72%. Okay. Majority of the members developed saving habit against 23%. Threshold increase in savings and doubling of borrowings. Share of consumption of loan from 50% to 25%. 70% towards income generation wherever ventures. Employment expanded. Okay. So how this enrollment stage has come down to 22%. You are going to write all these. Finally, in conclusion, you are going to write about how these self-help groups have proved the rural women, okay, that they can act as a they are not just labor in terms of households. They are also income generators. They are also self-employing. They are also eligibility for self-employment. So all these things you can write in the conclusion. Okay, this is how you have to take this question. Finally, two questions. The last of this is like 19th and 20th question. We have more questions. I'm just discussing about 19th and 20th now. So 19th and 20th questions, both are related to international relations, and both these questions are not so complex. They were like direct questions. So first they are talking about quadrilateral security dialogue. So it is transforming itself into a trade bloc from a military alliance in present times. You have to discuss about that. That is what they are asking. So what you are going to discuss is first talk about quadrilateral security dialogue. What is quad? It's an informal strategic dialogue between India, USA, Japan and Australia. Definitely you should mention about this. Quadrilateral. Okay, with the shared objective to ensure free, open and prosperous Indo-Pacific region. So was first mooted by Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe in 2007. And then 2012 he floated the concept of democratic security diamond, which involved diamond is like Australia, India, Japan and US to safeguard maritime commons from the Indian Ocean and Western Pacific. So if possible, please draw a map where you show this, where are these countries, why it is very important. USA, see, USA is here. USA will be here. India is here. Japan is here. Australia is here. So Indian Ocean, Pacific. This side you have Pacific. Obviously North Pacific, South Pacific. So you can understand one thing. They wanted to protect Pacific Ocean and Indian Ocean. That is what is mentioned here. Indian Ocean to the Western Pacific. That's all. Okay. In November 2017, India, the US, Australia, Japan gave shape to long pending Quad coalition. So all these things you're going to write. Okay. But they are asking you to write about this, that it is transforming itself into trade blow from military alliance. Why? So for that, the reason is the recent Tokyo meet. In this recent Tokyo meet, what happened? The development over last few months in the Indo-Pacific as a result of economic and security fallout of the pandemic and China's criminal withholding of information about it, leading to the spread across geographies. So what happened? Its military belligerence across the land border with India in the high Himalayas, ratcheting up the tension with the US in the South China Sea, intimidating Taiwan and its rapid denouncing of Australia's and Japan's attempt to free themselves of Chinese business shackles. So what happened? China is starting to, secretly spread across the geographies. So what happened? Australia and China, Japan is attempting to make themselves free from Chinese business shackles, and it's aggressive action against its ASEAN members. So, so what happened is that because of this quadrilateral security dialogue, instead of just acting as a security dialogue, they are having more trade-based agreements among them. Okay, so in this Tokyo meet, they understood very well that China is aggressively, both economically and strategically, it is spreading across geographies. So Japan and Australia understood very well that they should free them from the, Chinese business, all these diplomatic moves. For that, what happened recently? These four quadrilateral countries are having more trade-based, contacts. Okay, so finally you can write it like this. It is proving that quadrilateral security dialogue is becoming more trade-based concept than just security-based concept. Because you can also write about that the initial objective itself was to be free, open and prosperous, not just free. Okay, free, open and prosperous means obviously it is talking about both economic and strategic security, not just strategic security. Okay, yes. Next question. What is the significance of Indo-US defense deal over Indo-Russian defense deal? Discuss with reference to stability in the Indo-Pacific region. Okay, this is the question. So here, how should I proceed this? You can write it in a different format. How should I proceed? How should you proceed? This is, you have to talk about Indo-US deals, defense deals. Not all, but at least most important. You have to talk about Indo-Russian defense deals. Okay, Indo-US defense deals, Indo-Russian defense deal. They're asking what is the significance of these, of Indo-US defense deals over Indo-Russian defense deals, and discuss with reference to Indo-Pacific stability. Okay, so even the Quad, you can talk about the Quad also, where India and US is having a defense deal. Recently, United Nations 2+ talks, you have to mention about this basic exchange and cooperation agreements for geospatial intelligence. Write about that. What is this BECA? 4 foundational defense agreements between the two countries. What are those? In technology, interoperability and defense manufacturing. This is Indo-US. Okay, so write about BECA. Then what is BECA? Write about that. Because of this, BECA will provide Indian military system with a high quality GPS to navigate in missiles with real-time intelligence to precisely target the adversary. Okay, next is, what are this? This is Indo-Russia. Okay, at the beginning of this year, there was a DefExpo. It's 2020, nothing but 2020, DefExpo in Lucknow. So here, despite the pressure from US, India goes ahead with military deals with Russia. Okay, so US is forcing India and it is threatening with sanctions that you should not go with this military deals with Russia, but still we are going with Russia. Amid rising tension with China over LAC issue, The Indian government approached Russia to buy fighter jets in flyaway condition. And then you are talking about this hardware announcement to increase that New Delhi Moscow cooperation is there. Fine, you are writing about all these things. And in terms of Indo-Pacific, you are going to write concept like, you have USA and Russia. So both of them are very important to us, but we know very well the Chinese aggression is increasing in that place. So the Russian deals are very important for India to control China. So Russia is the neighboring country, I mean the most close, not neighboring, close country to China. And to maintain stability in Indo-Pacific region, it is very important for India to have the proper deal with both USA and Russia. Okay, so like that you are finishing. Next question. There is need for simplification of procedure for the disqualification of persons found guilty of corrupt practices under the Representation of Peoples Act. Comment. So here this is a 150 word question, 10 mark question, 2 pages will be given. So what you have to write about is, you have to write about what is the procedure for disqualification of person found guilty of corrupt practices under Representation of People Act. Then you have to write about why there should be a simplification of procedure. And finally, you should give a conclusion. So what are the Representation of Peoples Act? We write about Representation of Peoples Act. Okay, it is the actual conduct of elections, registration of political parties, qualification, disqualification of members of houses, curb corrupt practices, settling doubts and disputes. So how they can be like, now what are the provisions is that they can accept foreign contribution of regulation act. So foreign, they can accept contributions from foreign companies, right to information, corrupt practices. All government and non-governmental officials are included with the scope of corrupt practices. Bribery, undue influence, publication by a candidate, hiring or procuring any vehicle by a candidate to form any polling station are all included in this qualification details. When will this disqualification of MPs and MLA take place? Very important, you should talk about section 8 of Representation of Peoples Act, because the section 8 of Representation of Peoples Act only speaks about disqualification procedures. You have to definitely mention that disqualification of procedure is section 8 of Representation of Peoples Act. Okay, so here there are many things, that is, if an MP or MLA is convicted for any other crime and is sent to jail for 2 years or more, he or she will be disqualified for 6 years. Even if the person is on a bail, the conviction and his appeal is pending, he is disqualified. It allows, section 8 clause 4 allows convicted MPs and MLAs and MLCs, member of Legislative Council, to continue in their post provided they appealed against their conviction. Within 3 months they should prove. Okay, so that is the thing. Recently, section 8 clause 4 has been struck down by the Supreme Court. Okay. Misuse of government machineries. So why this has to be made simple? Because government machinery has been misused by this Representation of Peoples Act, because there is no clear provisions and guidelines. It's very complicated. So what happens is that the Representation of People Act is used sometimes to misuse the government machinery. So this takes in different forms, such as issue of advertisement at the cost of government, public exchequer, highlighting their achievements, disbursements, etc. Like especially when there is a election, you can see their ads, and then you can see their campaigns, which is using the governmental finance. So what is the way forward is restriction on opinion polls, independent election commission. You can write about all these things. Okay, especially they are asking you why you should simplify. So you have to answer it like, since the RPA is lacking clear provision and guidelines and it is very complicated, simplifications will help the proper interpretation of Representation of Peoples Act. Thus, the misuse of government machineries and other issues related to this disqualification can be rectified. You have to write like that. Okay. Next, about RTI. Recent amendments to the Right to Information Act will have profound impact on the autonomy and independence of Information Commission. See this? We're talking about the recent amendments to Right to Information. Because of this, autonomy and independence of Information Commission will be reduced. So discuss, that is the thing. So you have to talk about the recent amendments. So what is the recent amendments, and then you have to write about the answer. Autonomy of commission must be protected. The amendment bill was a clear attempt by the government to control the tenure and salary of information commissions. So here what happens in the amendment? So what happened? It is controlling the tenure and salary of the information commissioner. See, generally when you see most of these constitutional bodies, you can see that they are charged from the consolidated fund of India, which means they cannot be controlled by the government. But here this amendment bill is making it that they can be controlled by the government. The seeking powers would mostly probably lead to downgrade. So if amendment passed, the government has powers to fix salary and tenure of the commissioners. Most of the lakhs of RTA applicants filed every year are filed by common citizens under marginalized sections of the society. So what happens? So this would reduce the marginalized sections of the society and common citizens. So this will increase bit to secure the rights and entitlements from the government. Instead, ask for suggestions of people and RT amendment bill. So issues with transparent government in India, electoral bond, okay, sealed envelopes. Okay, there was an internet issue. Yeah, we'll continue. Am I audible? Am I audible to you all? Am I audible? Yes. Fine, let me continue. Okay. Fine. So how far do you think cooperation, competition and confrontation have shaped the nature of federation in India? Cooperation, competition, confrontation have shaped the nature of federation in India. See, federation is, they are talking about states. Keep that in mind. Okay, they're talking about the states. Yes. Fine. Okay, so they're talking about the different states. So here in this question, you have to write about what is cooperation, what is competition, and what is confrontation. Give examples for all these three things and how it is shaping the nature of federation in India. So cooperative versus competitive federalism, what is this? Is the center and states share a horizontal relationship where they cooperate is called as cooperative federalism. Center and state share vertical between the state government is that is competitive federalism means that center and state have a vertical relationship, which means center, below you have state. That is, state listens to center. Sorry. In cooperative federalism, center works along with state. This is the difference between cooperative federalism and comparative federalism. Here the states work in a horizontal manner. So center, state. Center is the first in hierarchy, state comes second. So this is what we are trying to explain. So Article 1 of Constitution states that India, that is Bharat, shall be a union. So this we already spoke about, how center is having more power than the states. So examples here for what is comparative federalism, what is the example here it is given. Role of Niti Aayog in promoting cooperative federalism, comparative federalism they have given here. Niti Aayog called out for competitive cooperative federalism, stressing that this formula would redefine the relationship between the center and states. So what is this? Under Article 263, this Center State Council is expected to inquire and advise on disputes, discuss subjects common to all the states, make recommendations for better policy cooperation. Okay? Fine. So the central government has promised a decentralization of power and minimum interference in state affairs. Without the rollout of GST, this federal structure is further cemented. So they have given examples: final sector of Uday scheme, Swachh Bharat ranking system. So these schemes, what they are doing is they are creating a healthy competition among the states. So center is there. Below that you have states. Center is there, you have states. So what happens, this Niti Aayog and different departments are creating healthy competition among these states. So among these, what happens, you have healthy competition like Swachh Bharat ranking systems, and then they have other schemes like which is the most developed city or smart city. All these kind of ranking systems are there. This will increase the healthy competition among states. You can give examples of those ranking systems. Okay. So find what is this confrontation? Confrontation is pointing out the mistakes of center or other states. So center is questioning the state is questioning the center, or state is questioning the other state. Okay, so that is also confrontation. Because of this, what is the nature of federation? Because of this, the healthy competition will increase among the different states. Because of this, the center state cooperation will start increasing. So you can write like that. Okay, next. In order to enhance the prospects of social development, sound and adequate healthcare policies are needed, particularly in the fields of geriatric and mental health care. They're not just talking about geriatric, this is usually women health. They're also talking about mental health. Okay, so this is what is very important in this question. So they are talking about, they are including the social development with this and this. So you have to talk about National Health Commission. In that, what are all the important scheme given to geriatric? Even now, for birth certificate, it is made mandatory that whoever it is, from rural, urban, for whoever you have to get birth certificate, it is made mandatory that the mother has to register in a primary health care. Please include this point also. The mother has to register in the primary health care, and she has to report for every month. She has to report. She has to visit the primary health care and report for every month about all her scan details, and then blood details, all these things. So only if this is done, they will be giving a number. Okay, that number has to be used wherever the child is born. Only then they will receive the birth certificate. So for making, now do you understand how they are linking these two things? This is a very beautiful example how the geriatric health is made compulsory. Okay, you can write about that. Health sector, maternal and geriatric role of government, social development, these are all keywords. So in this, health for all is a millennium development goal. Definitely talk about national health mission in this. It's a very easy question, not much. You can talk about national health mission in this. What does health mean? Living conditions. Okay, and then safe drinking water, nutrition and early child development, and then integrated child development services, very important. And all these program, mother and child immunization program, BPBP, Pradhan Mantri Jan Yojana, all these things you can talk about. Okay, next. Critically examine the role of World Health Organization in providing global health security. This was very expected. COVID-19 pandemic and World Health Organization. So how should you take this question forward? First of all, you have to write about World Health Organization in the introduction. What is World Health Organization? Where it is, not needed about where, who is the head and all. Just write about what is World Health Organization, what is it functions, and then what is the framework of World Health Organization related to infodemics, how they are managing coronavirus. So infodemiology is now acknowledged by the public health organizations and the World Health Organization as an important emerging scientific field and critical area during pandemic. What is this? So this is about information monitoring. What is this information monitoring? Since this coronavirus or this COVID-19 is spreading, it's a communicable disease. So especially in this communicable disease, it is very important about, you should keep it in mind about two things. Number one is that social distancing. This is prevention. Second is cure. First of all, you should identify who are all affected. This is information, who are all affected, so that you can make them stay in quarantine and it will not spread to others, and they are also taken care of. Third one is, we also have to know the information related to who these people who have already got affected have met with. Okay, you should know, you first of all you should spread the information about social distancing, that is prevention. Then you have to know the information about who all have affected and make them not go outside and make them stay in a particular place so that they do not further spread the pandemic. And third one is, you should also know the information about whom they have been in contact with, and they also should be prevented. So that is what is very important here. Building e-health literacy and science literacy capacity, encouraging knowledge refinement and quality improvement process such as fact checking and peer review. So accurate and timely knowledge translation, minimizing distorting factors such as political or commercial influence. All these are very important. So conclusion, you can write about how World Health Organization have given us proper information and have been a very important organ which took care about the information passing among people. Okay, next. Indian diaspora has a decisive role to play in the politics and economy of American European countries. Comment with example. So here this question is very simple. So I'm not giving you much of data because there are so much data. Indian diaspora has a decisive role to play, decision making role in terms of politics and economy of American European countries. So what you have to do is, here you have to simply give example. First write about what is Indian diaspora mean. Definition is given here. They encompass a group of people who can either trace their origins to India or who are Indian citizens living abroad either temporarily or permanently. It includes non-residential Indian, persons of Indian origin and overseas citizens of India. Finally, then you have to talk about how they are playing important role in politics and economy of American and European countries. Recently in America, you know very well who is the vice president, right? Kamala Harris. Write about her, and then write about the important CEOs of different companies, whoever you know, who are there in different economical or political position in both American and European countries. That is what they are expecting here. Okay, you can just take this list out. Okay, this question is simply about, they're asking you the data that they're having the decisive role is decision making role to play in this politics and economy, not just economy. You should also know the politicians. What does that mean? Hereafter, when you are watching news, hereafter when you are studying current affairs, please be aware of people from Indian origin also who are having a different positions. Why this is very important? Why this is asked? What kind of category you will bring this question in? It is an international relation question. Why this is an international relation questions? When there is a person of Indian origin in different countries, especially American and European countries, it is a strength to our country. Definitely, right? So when they are in a decision making position, obviously there will be a very good bias towards Indian side, both in terms of politics and economy. Fine. So that is what they are mentioning here. That is what they are asking you to prove. So comment with examples. Definitely you should mention the examples about all these people recently who all have, who are all in the political decision making and economical decision making in different countries. Okay, they have especially mentioned American and European countries. Make sure you talk about all these nations. Okay. Which steps are required for constitutionalizing of a commission? Do you think imparting constitutionality to the National Commission for Women would ensure greater gender justice and empowerment in India? Give reasons. So this question, you have to write it in 250 words. How will I take this question? Which steps are required for constitutionalizing of a commission? So generally, how will a commission become constitutionalized? What does that mean? How will you make a commission a constitutional body? See, National Commission for Women is a non-constitutional body. How will you make it a constitutional body? How did recent National Backward Commission become a constitutional body? By Constitutional Amendment Act, right? Write about Constitutional Amendment Act. Steps means write about Constitutional Amendment Act, how it will become a constitutional body. Then you have to talk about National Commission for Women. What is National Commission for Women? So what are the major functions of National Commission for Women? Investigate and examine all matters related to safeguards provided for women under the Constitution and other laws. Present reports to central government on work done towards these safeguards. Make recommendations for effective implementation of such safeguards of union governments. You are writing all the functions. Take up cases of violation of law against women, look into complaints and take suo motu actions over them, work towards women's rights, mitigating the hardships of women and ensure welfare and relief. All these things you are writing. It is very common. But you should also see this part of the question. Do you think imparting constitutionality to the National Commission for Women would ensure greater gender justice and empowerment in India? In this case, what you have to write is, you can write it like yes, or they are asking, do you think? You should write yes, I think, or no, I don't think, kind of answers. If you are writing it yes, you think, yes, obviously yes. If it is become a constitutional body, it will become more powerful because it will directly come under president. The president will appoint, or how the amendment act is made. It is according to that. Okay, so what happens is that it will become more powerful, it will become more empowered, not powerful, more empowered, because when it is having a constitutional status, it is having more empowerment compared to a non-constitutional body. So that what happens is that it will be a mechanism to ensure greater gender justice and empowerment in India. Okay, because the members who are appointed in the constitutional appointed the National Commission according to the Constitution will be getting their salaries. They'll be having security of tenure, so that there won't be any bias in working. What are the functions of what are the powers of constitutional bodies? Generally, we know very well their security of tenure will be strong, and then their salary will be taken from the consolidated fund of India. And then what happens? The positions are the commissioners. They cannot be easily removed. Okay, they either by Supreme Court, by the procedure of removing Supreme Court judges, or by the president by himself. So this will all make it more powerful. You have to write it in the conclusion. How you have to write it in the conclusion is, the constitutionalizing of the commission will definitely improve or increase the gender justice and empowerment of India, but still you have to write it like, but still the empowerment and greater gender justice is not just about the constitutionalization. It is about the basic reforms that come starting from education, cultural cultural reforms. All these things you can write. Okay, economical and the most important form of gender justice is given by economical, social and political security for women in our country. That can be done partially or partly by constitutionalizing the commission. This can be your answer. Okay, so very importantly, first this question I'm dividing it into one. This is first part, this is second part. They are asking you give reasons, third part. Finally, you have to give the conclusion. Very well. Fine. This is what is the answer. Okay. Next is National Education Policy 2020's conformity with the Sustainable Development Goal for 2030. It intends to restructure and reorient education system in India. Critically examine the statement. Critically examine means you have to criticize the national education policy. You have to criticize the, so we discussed about national education policy very recently in my special class. This January, okay, I have discussed, just go and watch that video where this current affairs related to society. My last special class, I clearly discussed about national education policy. In that national education policy, I spoke about school education, mother tongue related mother tongue or native religion related concept I have spoken about, three language system, how University Grants Commission and others are planned to be removed. You have to talk about this, what is that, 4 years UG concept, how you can skip and directly go to PhD, everything we spoke about, right? We just spoke, before 5 or 6 days. So you are going to write about that. You have to criticize all this. UGC is already properly working. If you are removing it, won't work out. Three language system, what is it is seen as imposition by different states. You have to talk about that. Mother tongue system, how bilingual system is there. Multilingual families where the father is belonging to one language, mother will be belonging to other language, they'll be in a different state. So what will happen to those people, that you have to criticize. So all these things are very, very, very important. Okay, this question is critically examined. Please be sure that what you are writing. So you're going to write, don't see in this question, don't just write about national education policy. It is a 250 mark question. Okay, so 250 mark question means you have to write for 3 pages. Don't just write the provisions of national education policy and expect them to give you mark. They have also spoken about sustainable development goal 4. Okay, so sustainable development goal 4 means it is about, they are talking about education goal. So you have to mix that with this. What is sustainable development goal? Giving education. It includes ensure inclusive and equitable quality education and promoting lifelong learning opportunities for all. That is what is SDG 4. So what you have to talk about is, you have to talk about national education policy which is having conformity with sustainable development goal. How this national education policy and sustainable development goal, you have to write about both, and how this both are having a link between them. You have to write about that. Ensure inclusive and equitable quality education and promote lifelong learning opportunities for all. Because of this lifelong learning opportunities, you can write about multiple entries and exist system in this 4-year UG process. You can write about that. How PhD is given for people, all these things you can talk about. Okay, next they are asking about, it intends to restructure and reorient educational system in India. Critically examine the statement. This statement only they are trying to critically examine. So what are the changes they are trying to bring? Restructure and reorient educational, that is what I'm talking about. Divide it into school education and higher education. Talk about that formula, 5 plus 3 plus 3 plus 4. How they are trying to bring in this preschool into this formalized form of education. What are the pros and cons? What is the significance in that? Write about the pros and cons. They're asking you to critically examine, write about the pros and cons. And then how this 3-language system and mother tongue system is having issues in them. How this 3-language system is seen as imposition in many different states. Write about Tamil Nadu. I told you this in the class that if this question asked, if it is asked as critically examined, definitely mention about Tamil Nadu, because Tamil Nadu proved to be successful already with 2-language system. Okay, economically they have already proved to be successful with 2-language system. They have English language as universal technical language. English language, they see it as universal technical language, and they have their mother tongue. Since they are not migrating much to other states, they are very much self-sustainable with two language system. And also it is voluntary to learn the other language. It is not, it is not completely banned in that particular state. In that position, this three language system is seen as an imposition, or it is seen as a breach of federal nature of Indian constitution. You can write like that also. It's a very beautiful question, very serious question also. Fine, next. Ethics class very soon I will start. Okay, yes. The incidence and intensity of poverty are more important in determining the poverty based on income alone. In this context, analyze the latest United Nations Multidimensional Poverty Index report. See, they are giving one statement and they are asking you to talk about this multidimensional poverty index report. So the incidence and intensity of poverty are more important in determining poverty based on income alone. So we have to talk about that. So what is this global multidimensional poverty index? That you can write it as a very beautiful introduction. It will definitely help. It has revealed that there are vast inequalities across countries and among poorest segments of society. It is revised version of MPI 2018, that is multidimensional poverty index. 101 countries are there. It is developed by Oxford Poverty and Human Development Initiative. This all you can introduce in the introduction. Indian scenario. India lifted 271 million people out of poverty between 2006 and 16, reduced from the last time, recording the fastest reduction in the multidimensional poverty index during this period, with strong improvements in assets, cooking fuel, sanitation and nutrition. Among 10 selected countries, India and Cambodia reduced their multidimensional poverty index value the fastest and did not leave the poorest groups behind. Jharkhand has reduced the incidence of poverty fastest, that is 74.9% to 46.5%. In India, along with Ethiopia and Peru, significantly reduced deprivations in all 10 indicators, namely nutrition, sanitation, child mortality, drinking water, years of schooling, electricity, school attendance, housing, cooking fuels, etc. If possible, give examples if any schemes related to this, if possible. Okay, so that is what you have to talk about here. So multidimensional poverty index, this you have to talk about what is global multidimensional poverty index, what are the criteria in that, how India is performing. So what is the latest United Nations multidimensional poverty index report, what has been mentioned in that multidimensional poverty index report, that is what they will be expecting in this answer. This is also 250 mark question. Since it is 250 marks questions, you can also talk about how it is like what are the schemes which is helpful, all these things. Okay, so yes, thank you so much. Today was a very good session. If you have any doubts, you can ask me, or you can ask me in Unacademy platform or Telegram also. I'm very happy to answer you. So we will meet in further classes, further discussions, and I will definitely help you in preparing very well for the preliminary examination. Please join my special class session. Next, my special class session will be scheduled very soon, where I will be discussing the previous year question 2020 prelims question, so that your preliminary examination preparation will be very, very effective. Okay. So thank you so much. Good night, everyone. Take proper rest and start tomorrow a new day, preparing very well for your future examination. Okay. So thank you so much. Happy meeting you.